What up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news concerning the middleweight division. We just witnessed an instant classic, a war between Triple G and Canelo Alvarez, and these guys pretty much gave it their all. Now this video is to talk about the recent news of Erislandy Lara. Okay. Lara has called out Triple G and Canelo. First of all, he gave his props to both fighters, as you should, being a fighter of the sport, because it was a great fight and he showed his respect, and should I say, he did call them both out. He called them out and he stated that he would go to 160 and challenge either one of them, which would be good on both sides. And I'm going to explain why. Lara just came off a hard loss, and then you come from a hell of a fight with these two guys, and before that they drawed. So, you look at a certain level, no one loses respect, but I think Lara needs to gain some respect. He just had one hell of a fight with Hurd, okay, and it was a split decision loss, and him, losing to Hurd, and I think the knockdown was the defining factor for that fight. But these guys from 154 to 160, it makes it very interesting. Jamal Charlo's up there. Billy Joe, of course, Triple G and Canelo. You have David Lemieux, of course. He's there still, and he just had a hell of a knockout over Spike O'Sullivan. So, I'll cover that later. But, I think Lara should have been set sail to 160. I don't even think he should have fought Lara. I think he should have took the gamble and fought one of the top dudes. However, he fought Canelo in a tough fight, and Oscar De La Hoya did not want that rematch. I repeat, he did not want that rematch in that Lara fight because, it was just too close to call, and they swept that under the rug. They said, oh, he was running or whatever, but you got outpointed by a runner. Okay. I got to, note everyone on that. But they did not want that fight. Golovkin's camp did not want that fight, and they had every excuse on why they didn't want to fight Erislandy Lara. He wasn't at the weight class or whatever. But then you're going to fight Kell Brook coming up from, 147? You know what I'm saying? So you fought a guy that was lower or lesser weight than Lara, a guy that's calling you out. And that was when Golovkin was knocking people out and picking them apart, when he was making Willie Monroe Jr. quit, which kind of had a similar style as Lara, but was less skilled. Okay, he was just a southpaw. So, there was a lot of question marks that was raised when a fighter was supposedly avoided at the time, and then Lara, did call out Golovkin, and they didn't want that fight. Okay, so that wasn't a good fight for him. Abel Sanchez had a lot of excuses. He said, well, he's not at 160. I don't think it'll sell. He made a lot of things come up, so, but he is calling them out nonetheless. And that would be great for the sport of boxing, especially at 160, because Lara's the kind of guy that will give anyone problems. You know what I mean? And I don't think a guy to that caliber would need a tune-up fight. You know what I'm saying? Like Terrence Crawford really needed a tune, which kind of Jeff Horn was the tune-up fight, but he was the champ. But, he was the champion, though. So I think a Canelo Lara would make sense. And let me explain why I feel it would, because the fight was so close, for one. It's controversial, just like this fight, for two. And, they've already fought. So, I know Golovkin and Canelo have now just been kind of locked in together, as these guys, kind of like a Gotti Ward or a De La Hoya Mosley or whatever. But, I think Lara and Canelo have been rivals too. And, and I think that rivalry was kind of avoided, ignored, and I always wondered, why didn't you ever fight Lara again? So that was always a question mark, because you open a blog about who won Lara versus Canelo, you will hear it 50-50 down the middle, just like the chances of them winning before they ever fought. Okay, so that would be big, because Canelo could pick that fight, and Lara though is one. Well, it's like he's 35 years old, so I think he's not as fast as sharp as he used to be. And Canelo's 28, so that's still what 7 years up, But Lara's still a good fighter, and he's still a good challenge to guys, and it would be a hell of a fight, and it would answer a lot of questions since Canelo can change styles, not like he does before, but. I think he will always have problems with someone elusive like Lara, and that would sell because he's already fought, and they could market it as a loose ends kind of fight, you know what I mean? And I think the fans would want it, but it's up to Lara though. I think he should promote that more. I think this is why, guys like us, that report boxing makes this available, for you guys to see and spread the word on fights like this to happen. Of course, Lara and Golovkin would be a good fight because Golovkin, never fought him. And it was debatable that Abel Sanchez and Golovkin's camp did, in fact, ignore or duck that fight because they didn't want it. It was just really, I think it was too risky. Because I think, what if a guy came from 154 and with the boxing pedigree Lara had and could just outbox Golovkin? It would be, it would be difficult for a guy like that. You know what I mean? And because Golovkin, again, did not fight the top guys Canelo fought. You know what I mean? And that was always something that Canelo's camp criticized Golovkin's camp for because, it's like, well, who has he fought besides these string of guys at 160 that haven't been in there with the pinnacle of guys like Canelo has been in there with? Okay, so, it would answer a lot of questions. I would love to see him fight both of those guys, but I think for Golovkin, I would rather see him fight Canelo because Canelo has a better opportunity of fighting him. But that obstacle could be because De La Hoya wouldn't want that. He didn't want it 4 years ago. So I don't think he would want it now. It probably would be safer for him to fight Lara since Lara has fought Martirosyan again, had that tough fight with Hurd, and has aged a bit, because I think De La Hoya is more about picking the right time to fight fighters. And fighting Lara 4 years ago was not a smart thing to do. That's why I feel that he lost. However, it might happen because of that. But that would be the only reason I see that happening. With Golovkin, I think Golovkin would be too old at this point because I think he's just chasing the legacy because now he does have a professional loss instead of that draw. And I think his only target would be Canelo. So by default, I think Canelo and Lara Part 2 would be great since he's doing sequels to guys. You know what I mean? Like he never done. You know what I mean? Like Denzel Washington and Equalizer 2, the sequel. So I think if Canelo's doing these sequels all of a sudden, I think that he could choose to pick a guy like Erislandy Lara, a guy that it was highly debated that he won that fight. So, of course you could come back and, for the record, hey, I want to fight this guy again. I want to, I want to shut everyone up. I want to correct everybody that I did win that fight. And you do that by taking another fight with that opponent. Look at Mayweather. What did Mayweather do with Castillo? What did he do with Maidana? He took those fights that people questioning him. So if Canelo wants to be great, I think this would be a perfect opportunity for him to do so. So anyway, that's just me giving my statement about Erislandy Lara calling out 160. And he's calling out the best, and that's the smart thing to do. But I think he needs to get his ass up there. He really needs to be at 160. He looks bigger. I've seen pictures of him lately. So I don't think that he would have any problems because everyone is over the weight, so them getting back into shape, they have to work themselves down to the weight eventually. So I think he has less to go since he is bigger. Let's just hope his power and elusiveness and his speed and his timing carries on to make the best fights. So anyway, again, that's my time. You guys tell me what you think about Erislandy Lara raging war or raging, a contest to these great fighters. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.